and then we will go into the occurrence-based series. I will also take this opportunity to talk a little about extended reporting periods and discovery periods, and why they are very peculiar to the claims made policies. So next slide, please. So what did we do last module? The claims made wording mandate, if you remember, liability policies are issued on two modules. One is the claims made module, the other one is the occurrence based format. These two formats are prevalent the world around for liability policy wording and issuance. India has always been traditionally more familiar with the claims made wording, because the claims made wording has been the, in the market agreements. So our initial introduction to liability insurance was always through claims made wording. So what is essentially a claims made wording in liabilities? That the event which has given rise to the claim should have occurred during the period of insurance. Now, period of insurance is the period from the retro date, meaning when you first bought the liability policy and continued it without the break. So that is a retro date. What is period of insurance? Period of insurance means the day you first bought the policy to the expiry of the current policy. So the event giving rise to the claim should have occurred during the period of insurance. So if you bought your first claims made policy in 2016 and you have been continuing it without break, then the period of insurance becomes 1st April 2016 to 31st March 2022. Got it? Until the expiry of the current policy. The claim should be made during the policy period. So the claim has to be made between the policy period. Policy period is a 12 months during which the policy is in force. So the claim should be made, when I say a claim, not the claim that the insured makes on the insurer. It is very clear that this refers to the claim that is made by the third party claimant on the insured. You get my point? So the claim that is made by the third party claimant on the insured should be during the policy period. These are two necessary and simultaneous conditions. So if the third party, the wrongful act, let's say, again I repeat, that if the wrongful act in a claims made policy has happened on, you started the policy from 1st April 2016, your retro date is 1st April 2016 because you have continued it without break. We also did that if you break it, then it will start from the new date from which you are holding continuous cover. Here we are assuming that this has continued without break. An accident happened in your plant in 2019. So it has happened after the retro date. You have continued the policy without break, and somebody has claimed on you in this year, 21-22. So you are satisfying now both necessary and simultaneous conditions. When you go back to the insurance company, it triggers a valid claim because the wrongful event which happened in 2019. The claim that has been brought to you is now, and you are giving notice of it to the insurer. So the above are necessary and simultaneous conditions. So if any one of them is not complied with, then the claims made policy does not respond. So let us take a claim that may have happened in 2014. It is out of the period of insurance because it is prior to the retro date. If the claims made policy is discontinued, let's say take the same example of 2019, but you did not continue the claims made policy. So when the claim from the third party is made on you, there is no policy in place. So again, no claim under the claims made policy because these are two necessary and simultaneous conditions. So if any one of them is not complied with, then the claims made policy does not respond. Now, in order to overcome the challenge of a liability claim arising after the expiry of the policy, which is not renewed or terminated. Imagine if the policy is renewed, then you will get, continuous coverage. But if the policy is not renewed or terminated, if the policy is not renewed, the policy expired on 31st April, and the claim for an incident that happened after the retro date in the policy, in the period of insurance, that claim comes to you after the policy has expired. The insurance companies will give you an extended reporting period. So what is an extended reporting period? Preet, can you go to the next slide? Discovery period, extended reporting period, notification extension clause. Now this is very, very peculiar to only a claims made policy, because discovery period and extended reporting period are synonymous. Discovery period is terminology which is used in financial lines. So all your D&O policies, professional indemnity policies, they will have the terminology of discovery period. Casualty policies, product liability, public liability will have CGL, will have the terminology of extended reporting period. These two are synonymous, but the third one, notification extension clause, is not synonymous. So let us look at what this means and the essential difference between these two. Discovery period means that the insurer is saying, we appreciate that you may get notice of a claim that a third party is making on you after the policy has expired. So we are giving you 90 days extra, within which you can tell us if somebody is reporting a claim on you, is lodging a claim on you, is sending you a written notice. A claim is a written notice, a claim is a demand for compensation. So if somebody is doing that, your policy has expired, you have not renewed the policy, we will give you an extra 90 days to intimate this occurrence, and we will treat it as though you have done it in the previous policy period. So remember, the discovery period is exactly what it says, or extended reporting period is exactly what it says. It gives you time, but it gives you time for discovering or reporting something. But the wrongful act should have happened in the policy period or during the period of insurance. It is not giving period. Does everybody understand that? So again, to repeat it and to make it even more clear, discovery period will give you a window of opportunity for reporting a claim that should have been reported before the policy cancelled. But if the fire happens after the expiry of the policy period, if the wrongful act happens after the expiry of the policy period, the insurer is not extending the indemnity period. Indemnity period over. Discovery period means I'm giving you time, but only to report claims arising out of incidents that took place before the policy expired. So please remember this essential difference. Now, in any policy, you will find different types of extended reporting periods. You'll find the automatic extended. So most insurers will give you an automatic extended, that okay, if you do not renew. Now, please remember, discovery period and extended claims reporting period are important only when you do not renew, terminate or cancel. The policy is not existing. Therefore, the insurer is giving you this benefit. If the policy is renewing, then you can always claim it in the next policy period, right? But please remember the claims notifications and stuff like that. So imagine if you continued the policy. The accident happened in 2019. The claim came to you in May 2021-22. But if you have extended the policy or renewed the policy in April 21, then you will not use the extended reporting period. Extended reporting period is used only when the policy does not exist. I hope everybody gets this, because I see so many brokers, especially for the D&O, they keep asking the insurer, this insurer is giving me extended reporting period of so many months, and you're giving 90 days and you're giving me 30 days. To an extent, I appreciate you want to match the best terms. But please remember, having taken a D&O, there are very few companies who will not renew a D&O. So what are you basically fighting for? Because the extended reporting and the discovery period take effect only when the policy is not renewed. So please be very clear about what you are asking. So coming back to automatic, you'll always find in the claims made policy, there will be some automatic period, 30 days, 90 days, whatever. After that, you may get an optional extended reporting period. Now, this is usually at additional premium. So the insurer will say, so if let's say that you are discontinuing the company or that factory, wherever, you're discontinuing the company only, that was one subsidiary that is no longer, that has been wound up. Now, obviously, you're not going to renew the policy for that subsidiary. The policy stands to be terminated. So now you go back to the insurance company and say, listen, I'm never going to renew this policy, but 90 days is a little inadequate because people might come back after 4 months, people might come back after 6 months and say, your factory caused this disaster. So why don't you give me an extended reporting period for 1 year, 2 years? Now, in that case, the insurance company will say that I'm going to charge you additional premium. So the normal standard, the norm in the country is 90 days automatic, and for 1 year, 50% of the premium. So that 50% of the premium, whatever was a premium when you're demanding of the policy that expired, that 50% of the premium is going to be charged to get an extended reporting period for a year. I hope everybody understands this. Now, one thing you need to check is your extended optional extended reporting period starts when. That also in a good policy should be clarified, that if my normal reporting period is 90 days, if the normal reporting period is 90 days and the extended reporting period that I have bought is 1 year, that 1 year starts from when? It starts from the expiry of the policy period, or it starts from the expiry of the automatic extended reporting period. So these things you have to check every policy. There is no standard for this. Most people say that if you're taking it for 1 year, then the automatic extended reporting period is included in that 1 year. That 1 year starts from the expiry of the policy. But if you are, there are some insurers who will say, okay, I'm giving you 90 days automatic extended. And if you want to buy 1 year, I'm giving you 1 year on the expiry of the automatic extended reporting period. So please look at your policy documents. There is no standard here. You have to understand the concepts. Now, notification extension clause is something totally different. That applies only when the policy is being renewed. And what does the notification extension clause say? It says that if you're aware of any circumstance in the policy for which there is no claim yet, but you are aware of a circumstance. Similar example, there was, let's say the policy is expiring on 31st March 2021, 2021. An incident of fire has happened, an explosion incident has happened, a small boiler exploded. It has shattered the neighbor's windows. Now you know of this incident, but no neighbor has still come and filed a claim. We'll answer all these questions later. You can post them on the chat, but we'll answer all the questions later. Now, the neighbor has not come forward to claim from you, right? But you are aware of this incident. What does a notification extension clause say? The notification extension clause says that you can inform the insurance industry, the company, of a circumstance which may give rise to a claim later. If the insurance company has accepted that notification, they will treat as though a claim is made in the policy period where the incident was notified. So are you understanding the implication? An incident has happened in February. Your policy comes up for renewal on 1st April. You are giving notification of a circumstance. What happens? That the claim that will come later also, the claim may come anytime later, 22-23 policy, 23-24 policy, but it will be treated as though it is a claim in the 2021 policy. So notification extension means giving notification of a circumstance and compelling the insurer to treat it as a claim on the last day of the policy. This is very important because if your policy has remained claims free in 2021, you are aware of an incident that may give rise to a claim. Why would you want to erode your future policy limits? What you would do is give notice of a circumstance, get the insurer to acknowledge that, and begin your new policy with fresh limits. So I hope everybody has understood the difference between discovery period, extended reporting period, and notification extension clause. Again, I repeat, discovery period, extended reporting periods will take effect only if the policy is not renewed, it does not exist, it is terminated, but notification extension clause will take effect if the policy is renewed. So I hope everybody has got, otherwise you can ask questions. These are important provisions, but there are times when the brokers don't understand it. There are times when the insured, see, it is always prudent to give notice of circumstance. The sometimes नहीं premium बढ़ जाएगा, अभी नहीं देना है notice, renewal terms आने दो, बाद में insurer को बताएंगे, अभी claim कहाँ आया है. I hear so many arguments and I feel sad because you are eroding your own fresh limits. You are not acting as per utmost good faith. You are violating the claims provisions in the policies, because claim provisions will say you have to give notice of a claim and you have to give notice of circumstances of claim. And further still, the insured will give no known claims or declaration of claims. So all the more everything, no known claims or circumstances of claims, and now you are putting yourself at a big risk. So please be careful about these clauses. Now we will go to occurrence based policies. Okay. So I hope everybody understood claims made, two necessary and simultaneous conditions, wrongful act to have happened during the period of insurance, claim to be made in the policy period. Now, occurrence based wording is simpler. If you have understood claims made, you'll say, wow, occurrence is so simple, because all the occurrence based wording says is that event giving rise to the claim must occur during policy period. So if you've got a policy from 1st April 2020 to 31st March 2021, then whatever is the event which is giving rise to bodily injury or property damage, that event has to happen in those 12 months. Then the policy may expire. The insurer will say, you give me notice of an event as and when that happens. The claim is still not made on you. Okay. There is no third party who has sued, made a written demand for compensation yet. No claim has been made, but the event has happened in that year. So after that, for posterity, the occurrence based wording continues. 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, your policy may have expired, your factory may have shut down. That doesn't matter. If a claim is made for a wrongful act which happened in the policy when the policy was in force, then the policy pays. So you would say, why would we all do claims made wording? Why not occurrence based wording? Kitna simple to hai. All I have to show is that the event occurred during the time when it was in force. Please remember, for the wording, most insurance companies will charge high premiums, keep the books open for longer, at least until the Limitation Act. So as a norm, the insurers keep their books open for 3 years because they never know when a claim is going to be made. And there are certain categories of products for which occurrence based wording is not given now. For example, tobacco, nobody will give an occurrence based wording. First of all, finding tobacco product liability is a little too much. Auto components, you won't get the market, so we'll give you occurrence based wordings, right? So there are not too many markets who will give you occurrence based wording specifically for product liability. Occurrence based wording for public liability is still common, but product liability very difficult for certain categories of products. So now you realize the simplicity of occurrence based wording. Very simple. CGL financial lines policies are never done on occurrence based. D&O, PI, all these are never done on occurrence based wording. So what happens after you talk to many people about claims made in occurrence based, they get so enamored of it, they said, I want every policy on occurrence basis only. But financial lines policies like D&O, PI, cyber, crime, these are given either on discovery periods or claims made. They are not given on occurrence basis at all. Only casualty policies, public product liability may be given on occurrence based. Now, CGL policies may be claims made or occurrence based, but it is important to switch between the two. We will come to the switch. Let's say that you have an occurrence based policy, but now the market has dwindled and you're forced to take a claims made policy. How do you switch from a claims made wording to an occurrence based wording, from an occurrence based wording to a claims made wording? We'll come to that later. Now, statutory casualty policies are generally occurrence based. So, Public Liability Insurance Act, what is the government saying? That as and when you are handling hazardous substances, you must have a Public Liability Insurance Act. The government cannot be bothered whether you are renewing the policy year after year. Government statutory policies will say take the policy when, if the wrongful act, if the accident happens, when you have the policy, you should be allowed to claim whenever. So do not look for retro dates on PLI Act policies. They are all occurrence based. Workman's compensation. Workman's compensation, occurrence based policy. Because a workman just has to prove that he was a workman when the accident happened. He is not bothered about whether you are continuing your workman's compensation policy, whether the claim is made during the period of insurance, because claims made policies have to be renewed year after year after year. So almost all statutory casualty policies are generally occurrence based. When you come to contractual mandates, you will often see American companies say you have to take CGL on occurrence basis. Why? Why would they say you take CGL on occurrence basis? See, try and understand the philosophy. This fellow who's going to buy goods from you, or who's going to, enter into a business relationship with you, he says, for as long as we are in this business relationship, I want you to take an insurance. I don't care whether you will renew it later after our relationship has ended. So if they insist on occurrence based policies, they know for sure that this policy will pay even if it is not renewed. So these are the reasons why occurrence based policies are often preferred in the international market. But like I told you at the start, you may not get it for every occupancy. For example, when I started my career in liability insurance, occurrence basis was the flavor of the day. We would get almost anything on an occurrence based policy. Today, try getting even public liability of a petrochemical complex on an occurrence basis. Not easy. Chemical hazardous, not easy. Product liability of components on occurrence basis, not easy. So there are certain, when, I mean, if you were to insist, you will get one or two guys and their premiums will be prohibitive. But claims made wording, you, as against two, you will get 20 insurers to do it. So occurrence based policies were quite in fashion. Then they came back when the market, in between there, the market for occurrence based had completely dried up. But again, in the last few years, we are seeing occurrence based policies that have been, that insurers have so slowly started granting. Can we go to the next slide, please? So if you have understood occurrence basis, what are the essential policy elements that you would not see in a standard occurrence based policy? There will be no period of insurance. There's no retroactive date. Each policy stands for itself. If the wrongful act has happened in those 12 months, fine, the policy pays. There is no question of the retro date from when you first bought cover to continuation without break. All that doesn't matter in occurrence based policies. Only one policy period will be there. There will be no retro date. So there are times when the brokers ask me, how do we differentiate? I said, look for retro date. If there is no retro date, it's an occurrence based policy. No extended reporting periods. Why? The fellow does not need an extended reporting period. He can report a claim until posterity. 20 years down the line, he can report a claim. What is it that made liability insurance so difficult? Because occurrence based policies responded to tobacco claims 20 years after they were made, asbestosis claims 20 years after they were made. So the market withered, right? Now, claims made policy, the policy has to be renewed because a claim has to be made during the policy period, the 12 months. Occurrence based policies, you don't need to renew, you don't need an extended reporting period because you can report a claim till posterity. So these are the essential policy elements that you would not see in a standard occurrence based policy. Next slide, please. Now, the question that most people ask me in terms of claims made versus occurrence based. What is a, let's say that you have a claims made policy. Now your client is saying, Arey Baba, occurrence milta hai to le lo na. Occurrence based policies are so much better. You want to switch over from a claims made policy to an occurrence based policy. Or you already have been taking a claims made policy for so long. But you are now getting an American client who is saying, I'm not going to accept a claims made policy. I want an occurrence based policy. So you're thinking of switching over your entire operational policy to occurrence based. So now, what do you do when you're switching over from an occurrence based policy to claims made policy? You have been taking an occurrence based policy from 2016. So you have taken an occurrence based policy from 2016 to 17, 17 to 18, 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20 to 21, and current 21 to 22. Now you are changing over to a claims made policy. What is a special care that you must have, that you should take? Honestly, nothing. Because the occurrence based policy is such that if there is a claim traced to a wrongful act that happened in 21, 22, sorry, in 16, then that 16, 17 policy will pay. If you take in the claims made policy a retro date of 2016, you are compounding complexity and confusion. What happens if you take a claims made policy? You have had occurrence based policy from 2016, and now you're saying, Array, I have a liability policy from 2016. I have renewed it without break. Never mind if I'm changing over from occurrence based to claims made, but now I will take a retroactive date of 2016. Wow. Don't ever do that. For the simple reason that with that, if the wrongful act, if the insurer has given you, if the wrongful act has happened in 2016, the claims made policy will pay because the retro date is from 2016, and the occurrence based policy will also pay because there was an occurrence based policy in 2016. Effectively, both insurers are going to say that this policy pays, I don't. I will come as an excess insurer because of the other insurance clause, and this fellow will be the primary. Two policies, both of them taking excess positions, very difficult to get a claim. So literally my advice is, if you are changing from occurrence to claims made, you don't need to do anything, because occurrence based policies will take care of the wrongful acts happened during their policy periods, regardless of when the claim is filed. Now, if you're changing from claims made to an occurrence, from an occurrence, okay. If you're doing from a claims made policy to an occurrence base, now you have to be careful, because a claims made policy will have a retro date. So if you have taken a policy from 2016 to 2021, you've got 5 years of continuous coverage. Any wrongful act that would have happened in 2019, let's continue the same example of 2019. You have a wrongful act. There's a explosion in the facility, yet no claimant. But you know of this, right? Wrongful act has happened in 2019. Now, yet no claim. If you were to change to an occurrence-based policy, it will not pay for 2019 because the occurrence-based policy is very clear. I am only paying for wrongful acts that happened between 1st April 21 to 31st March 22. This act has happened in 2019. I'm not paying. The claims made policy has not been continued. So you are not complying with the second condition that the claim should be made during the policy period, the 12 months, because the claims made policy does not continue. So now you are in a fix. So what you do when you change a claims made policy to an occurrence based policy, you will seek what is called the sunrise clause. And plenty people have been asking me, Uttara, tell us the difference between sunrise and sunset clauses, their applicability, and how do they work. So what is a sunrise clause? Sunrise clause is the terminology you use when you want to buy retro period coverage in an occurrence based policy. Please understand, and I will explain once again. Retroactive dates, retro period coverage, the terminology is used in claims made. But now you are changing from claims made to occurrence based. And you want those 5 years that you have taken continuous cover, you want that to be covered in your occurrence based policy. So you will ask your insurer, I want a sunrise cover from 2016. No difference, it acts like a retro date. But that is a correct terminology. Now, what is a sunset clause? In occurrence-based policies, you have sunrise and sunset because you have to assume, as a buyer or as a broker, you have to assume that you are standing at 12 noon. If you are standing, if the time when you are effecting the purchase, imagine a clock. If you're imagining a clock and you are imagining standing yourself at 12 noon, for when did sunrise happen? Sunrise happened in the past from 12 noon. ये सब sunrise पहले हुआ है. So any coverage that you ask for the past is sunrise cover. Now most insurers who are giving occurrence based policies will have a sunset cover. Sunset कब होता है? 12 noon के बाद होता है, future में होता है. So what are the insurers telling you? That I'm giving you an occurrence based policy, but I'm not giving you reporting periods for posterity. I am giving you a sunset clause which says that you can report claims up to 3 years, 4 years. But after that, the occurrence based policy does not work. So wrongful act may have happened in 2016. Sorry, we took the example of 2019. Wrongful act may have happened in 2019. Okay. The liability claim surfaces in 2020. Or let's take this current period, 1st April 21 to 31st March 22. The insurance company has given you an occurrence based. Okay. If he has given you a sunrise clause, he will meet the 2019 claim because he has given you sunrise. पीछे के claims वो consider कर रहा है. You have to assume you are at noon. So he is considering all the claims that have gone, that are there behind. Now, if he puts a sunset clause, he is saying that for a claim wrongful act that happens in 21-22, you can give me a notice for 4 years and no more. Sunset clause is not ever demanded by a broker or an insured. Please remember, that is put by an insurer, and he is, why is he putting that clause? Because he doesn't want claims to come to be filed or lodged on him for in the next 15-20 years for an incident that has happened now. So he is limiting the reporting period to 3 years or 4 years. That is a sunset clause. I hope everybody understood because these are difficult concepts. I think this was the last slide, no, Preet?
Yes, ma'am.
So can we open the forum for questions?
Absolutely, ma'am. I'll request Garima to take over the questions in the chat box. Garima, if you
Yes,
could
please.
just.
Sure, I will do that. So, ma'am, there is a question which says if the claim is reported in the discovery period, is the client required to renew the policy also?
If you are taking a discovery, see, the discovery period takes effect only if the policy is cancelled or not renewed or not this. So you can't then renew the policy. You have taken a decision not to renew the policy, to cancel or to terminate the policy. Therefore, the insurer is giving you a discovery period. You're taking a new policy after that is not going to help the past claim, right?
And then that would also not be an renewal as such, ma'am, because there'll be a gap, there'll be a break in the thing. So it
Yeah,
will
there'll
be
be,
a
yeah.
fresh policy with a fresh retro then.
No, I don't think people here have understood that
Yeah.
it is only because if you, okay, now if you are anticipating a claim in the first place, why would you not renew or cancel your policy? That doesn't make sense to me. If you are anticipating that unless the factory closed down, if the factory closes down, the risk is no longer there. Then yeah, you might have known that there was a blast in the factory, but now the factory closes down, that risk is not there, so you have taken the decision not to renew and you are seeking an extended discovery reporting period or a discovery period. But if in most cases, if you are anticipating that there will be a claim, you will not cancel or terminate the policy. Is that clear? Have I answered the question? Was that Komal who asked that question? I can't remember. I kept seeing pop-ups. Garima, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. So
Sorry,
Madhuri ma'am had asked that question, and Madhuri ma'am, if that is clear, then it's fine. If it is not, then you can either you can actually post it again if there is more clarity that you need on this one. Ma'am, Komal had asked the question: why is there a need of 1 year period then, if it only adheres to policy period? Komal, was this question with relation to extended reporting period or extended notification clause?
Komal, can you clarify that question a little further?
Yes, Komal is saying yes. So it was yes with respect to extended reporting period or notification clause.
Just give me a minute, ma'am. I'll just
Please,
unmute,
can we
ma'am.
unmute? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just unmuting, ma'am. Just give me a second.
Uttara, this is Madhuri. Can I go back to my question?
Sure, you can, Madhuri.
Yeah.
Komal,
so
please wait. We'll take you, but let us finish what is unanswered.
when you register a claim in discovery period, then your claim is admissible, is what my question is then.
Yes, if the wrongful act related to, if the wrongful act happened when the indemnity period was there.
Correct.
So if the
yeah.
wrongful act happened when you were covered under a valid liability policy and you had a proper indemnity period, then sure, it's an admissible claim.
Okay. Okay. Okay, you can go to the next. I'm done.
Thank you, Madhuri.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, Komal's question was with respect to extended reporting period. Why is there a need of 1 year period? Then it only adheres to policy period. I think what she wants to, yeah, yes, ma'am.
I think again, people have not appreciated that extended reporting period. You can take any extended reporting period. The automatic is 90 days. I was just telling you the norm in India currently is that everybody demands a 1 year at 50%. But extended reporting period can be for 2 years, can be for 3 years. But if you want to take more, then I suggest you take a runoff and not an extended reporting period. But you can take as much extended reporting period you want, provided the insurer is willing to grant it. So extended reporting period and discovery periods have to be taken from the same insurer. You can't say that my policy is with New India and I want an extended reporting period from ITGI. That doesn't work. It has to be from the same insurer who had the expiring or the non-renewed or the cancelled or the terminated policy.
And also, Komal, once again,
between extended reporting period and runoff. Can you please clarify that?
Hello.
ma'am, there is a question of difference between the extended reporting period and runoff.
So extended reporting period and runoff are pretty similar concepts, but runoff is used when the factory does not exist anymore, when the business does not exist anymore, when people are doing, let's say, a merger acquisition. So company ABC is buying company XYZ, and they are saying that company XYZ, we will handle all the claims of the company XYZ after they have merged into us. But for the claims that may arise, you buy a runoff. So runoff is used for basically companies or entities not existing anymore, whereas extended reporting periods can be used for even simpler stuff, where only one part of the policy you don't want to continue.
So also typically if you read it, runoff says that it is going to be in case of a transaction, which means either a merger, acquisition or liquidation. So then you take a runoff period, but like ma'am said, it is going to cover the discovery of the claim that has come upon the insured for a wrongful act committed once again during the policy period.
So it is quite similar in application, except that runoff applies mostly to entities as a whole. And generally we use the term when there is a merger acquisition, where somebody has acquired a company, where the insured has been acquired. Let's say you are the broker of company ABC. That company is merging into company XYZ. Now the director is asking you, Mr. Broker, please tell me, they will only handle claims for the next of the future. Now the company does not exist, so you can't continue the policy. The company doesn't exist, nobody can buy the policy for that company which does not exist. So what he does is he buys a runoff. Is that clear? Have I sufficiently answered the question to whoever was asking me?
Okay, ma'am. So runoff is, we mostly see runoff coverage under a DNO policy and sometimes in a PI policy.
Yeah, because it's a terminology used in financial lines.
It is a terminology used in financial lines. Ma'am, there is a question from Puneet. How does the law of limitation impact the occurrence-based policies?
So remember, the law of limitation starts with the cause of action and not with the wrongful act. So the wrongful act may have been in 19, but if the person complains of damage now, then the law of limitation will start from 21. It is when the bodily injury or property damage was manifested, not when the act happened. But in law, you might say that he has not used, or he has not availed of his rights, and 3 years have passed. So the legal position will depend case to case, because in all of tobacco and in all of asbestosis claims, the law of limitation was changed to not from the wrongful act, but when they suffered bodily injury, property damage. 3 years from then. So in every case, you will have to ask your lawyer that if you say that I suffered bodily injury now, then the law of limitation will start from those 3 years. But again, I cannot give a blanket answer, because for every case, a lawyer will tell you whether the law of limitation. Now, if you have suffered bodily injury Let's say there was a blast. You suffered bodily injury or property damage, and for 3 years you didn't do anything about it, then the law of limitation would apply. But remember that I don't answer legal questions generally, because if it is a legal liability, the lawyers have to establish it, that in this particular case compensation is payable. Then the insurance company will go by the legal judgment or the legal grounds. Even if they are doing the out of court settlement, they will go by legal grounds.
Okay, ma'am. What are the standard industry norms for sunrise and sunset clauses?
Again, there are no standard industry. If the insurer wants your business, he will be willing to meet the retro of the claims made policy. There are times when the insurer says, let's say that every other term, you've got a fantastic quote from somebody, occurrence based. You took the policy from 2016, but he says, I'm willing to give you only a 3-year retro or a 3-year sunrise clause. I'm not willing to give you 6 years. I'm willing to give you only 3 years. You will then talk to the insured and say, abhi 6 saal tak koi aaya nahi hai claim. Can we take a retro or a sunrise of 3 years? There are no standard clauses. It all depends on the negotiability and the terms and conditions of that particular quote. Again, with sunset also, there are no standard clauses. If the insurer is willing to give you an occurrence, but he wants a sunset clause of 3 or 4 years, there are times when people will accept it. There are times when I've seen claims go out of it because of the sunset clause. And there are times when I've seen that, and again, this is slightly technical, but I have seen that insurers have given full occurrence base without the sunset clause, but the FAC reinsurance terms had sunset clause, and they are now in a soup. So you need to be, because in occurrence-based policies and in occurrence-based quotes, generally the insurers depend a lot on reinsurers. They will need to study that there is no sunset clause in their occurrence-based facultative reinsurance quote. This is handy for guys who are doing reinsurance as well. There are no norms. If you ask me what are the norms, there are no norms.
I think it will also depend upon what the insurer's treaty also allows them to do, up to what extent,
Yeah.
etc., depending upon which the insurers are going to give cover for this. So, ma'am, that brings us to the end of the questions that were posted in the chat. If there are any more questions, please feel free to ask. Else, we'll wrap up the session.
People may want to raise their hands and ask questions.
Madam, blackout and brownout exclusion in the liability policy, what it is?
Blackout and brownout. These
Yeah.
are in the cyber policies. They are not in this. What they mean is that we will not pay for okay, if they are into cyber and professional indemnity coverages, and what it means is that if you're giving, let's say that you are into business of IT and you are promising uptime of 99% and stuff like that to your clients, to the insured is promising an uptime of 99% or so to his clients. And now, because of the blackout or brownout, blackout is complete disruption of electricity and all connectivity and all public key infrastructure, or brownout, electricity is coming and going in phases. So it's not a complete blackout. Some for a few hours electricity or connectivity is there, for a few hours it's not there. Now this has interrupted their provision of services to their client. So that 99% uptime that they kept promising, they can't deliver on that. And then the client sues them that you promised me 99%, but you're not delivering 99% uptime. But it's not because of a defect or deficiency in the services of the insured. It is because of electricity, power issues which are beyond his control. So the insurer will put a blackout brownout. That if you get claims because the power is failing, or there is no connectivity, or there is a blackout or brownout in the essential services that you need to provide your services, please don't hold us responsible. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, Mamta.
Any other questions?
Ms. Uttara, I have a question on D&O. Is it okay if you can ask? Because that's not related to today's topic.
Go ahead. I think we wrapped up our session, so I'll take a question on D&O. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
this question is with regard to the depletion in the value of security for a listed company. Now, in the case of a listed company, then there is a depletion in the value of security due to a wrongful act. As I understand, it is covered under the D&O policy.
Yeah, you're talking about entity securities.
Entity security. Now, my question was, why is it this is not extended to an unlisted company? Because there could be a possibility of depletion of value there also. I agree that practically establishing the value depletion might be a subjective matter.
No, we routinely ask. We have seen so many claims coming from shareholders of private limited companies. The insurers will say, where is the risk? I know that there are plenty insurers will say, Arey, this is a private limited company. It's not even a publicly listed company. But I have seen shareholder claims. I always ask. There are some insurers who will give it. And in fact, as a broker, you should argue that if you don't see so much of a risk, why don't you give it to me without much of a premium? Garima will kill me. But frankly, I ask and I get.
See, when we ask this question, the common excuse that comes across is that we are not able to determine the value of a security unlike that of a listed company.
What? We are not able to determine what?
The value of the security. The
No,
depletion in the
wait,
value is
wait.
difficult.
Hang
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Entity securities does not always limit itself to one type of claim, that because of the act of the director or officer, my quote, which was my share, which was quoting at 500, has fallen to 50. I agree that is a biggest exposure, but there are a number of exposures on the shareholders which come from other shareholders who say, and one of what we've seen cases which went under entity securities where they had okay, there were a number of shareholders in the private limited company. Suddenly these guys announced another major shareholder who was coming in, and one of the shareholders complained that his holding in the company got diluted and his consent was not taken, and this was like a minority shareholder being compromised. So he took a shareholder action. So it's not, I mean, it all depends on how you argue this out with the insurer. Lately we have seen claims on entity securities from unlisted companies also.
Okay. What we have been told is that entity security per se is applicable only to listed entities. That is wrong, correct? That particular.
It may have started, and it is still true that only listed companies buy it, but if you make your case sound, I think that even unlisted companies should get it.
Yeah, thanks. That's the point.
Any other questions?
So I think, ma'am, there are no further questions. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful session. Very small things like extended reporting period, notification clause. Sometimes everything just gets all jumbled up in the head, and we need to revise it from time to time. And I think this session must have also brought about a lot of clarity in the various principles of liability insurance. Thank you so very much, ma'am. Thank you to the participants who are there for such an interactive session. We will have our next session, and Preet is going to inform all of you about it probably sometime in the month of November. We will convey the date and time. Until then, take care of yourself, and we shall meet all of you very soon. Thank you.
And happy Dussehra to everybody, whoever is on
Yes, happy
the
Dussehra.
yeah. Bye.
Same to you, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.